Sangvis Ferri's plan Parapluie. After the butterfly incident, Sangvis Ferri would utilize a milder strain of the Parapluie virus obtained from the incident to spy on infected doll communications and even convert non-SF dolls into SF dolls under their control by rewriting the digimind of the infected dolls. Communication equipment and network systems belonging to SF are used as vectors for the infection. It was given to SF during the butterfly incident by UMP-40 after uploading the virus to the SF network, as required by her mission to sabotage the operation to arrest and secure Mica. Plan Parapluie was an operation staged by Sangvis Ferri to exploit this milder strain of Parapluie to conduct electronic warfare against Griffin and Kryuger. This strain was able to turn G&K and military dolls into Sangvis Ferri dolls, as well as remain in a dormant state, acting as a backdoor to spy on the carrier data and install extraneous programs. Many Sangvis-controlled computer terminals were essentially booby-trapped with Parapluie to infect any T-doll making contact with them. Anti-Rain Team's AR-15 was selected as the virus's first vector, as Elisa believed her upright personality would make her easier to bargain with and have her deliver M4A1 to Sangvis. AR-15 came into contact with an infected terminal while evading Sangvis forces after the raid on Safe House 3 in 2062, obtaining the virus in the process. While knowledge of the virus was recovered at Safe House 3, it was unknown that AR-15 was infected until after Sangvis Ferri's attack on G&K's secret base and their attempt to kill Borozovich Kryuger himself. It was discovered that SF had used AR-15's infection to locate her location, obviously, and subsequently the base's location as well. Due to her being the source of the leak, G&K would detain her. However, AR-15 decided to take matters into her own hands and attempt to use Parapluie against Sangvis, escaping G&K's custody to do so. Deactivating all of her communication modules in order to prevent the virus's spread, AR-15 would utilize the OGAS network authorities that the virus granted her to infiltrate and collect intel on the virus, sharing said intel through external storage devices for G&K forces to find and recover. AR-15 was not the only significant player to be infected by the virus, as 5 days later, during Operation Cube, UMP-45 of Squad 404 was also infected, although by a dormant iteration of the virus. AR-15 would also find herself deceived and used by Sangvis Ferri's Dreamer, who leaked false information about a server site and installed a jamming system into AR-15's systems to delay G&K's advancements in Sangvis Ferri territories. AR-15 would later confront Sangvis Ferri's mastermind, Elisa, or more precisely, a dummy of her, in order to prevent SF's capture of M4A1. She would detonate the building containing herself and the Elisa dummy, only surviving due to the aid of Task Force Defy. She would continue to contain the virus by deactivating her digital transmission modules. However, this came with the sacrifice of her use of the Zener protocol, dummy networks, and data exchange, forcing her to rely on analog radio for long-range voice transmissions. It has also been noted that the virus seems to have eliminated AR-15's prime directive to protect M4A1, thus allowing AR-15 to act more independently. Other T-dolls infected by the Parapluie virus have also taken notable actions in support of G&K despite said infection. One such case is that of Og of IWS 2000's squad, who purposely subjected herself to Parapluie during a mission by using an infected SF communication relay. Og, having less defensive capabilities to handle the virus, would inevitably succumb to it. However, not before using the relay to warn the commander of an inbound biological weapon unwittingly carried on their clothes by T-dolls returning to the base. She was then subsequently destroyed by IWS shortly after being overtaken. In the aftermath of the battle against Sangvis within Area SO8, the AR team and the T-Dolls suspected of being infected were quarantined in Area SO5 for further screening. 16 Lab would then work to establish countermeasures against Parapluie. The first T-Doll known for carrying such countermeasures was Row 635, who could detect Parapluie-infected terminals by sensing the pattern of the virus remote control signal and neutralizing it before accessing the terminal. With these upgrades, Row was able to perform counter-jamming measures as well. 16 Lab would use the virus as a means to infiltrate Sangvis Ferri networks, just as AR-15 had done previously. This modified strain was later used by M16A1 to access top-secret files at Sangvis Base 0 and help stabilize M4A1's neural cloud after her encounter with Elisa. However, in doing so, she subjected herself to an irreparable amount of the virus, and her neural cloud was claimed as overridden by Sangvis Ferri. This was, however, part of her plan to join Sangvis Ferri willingly. M16A1 later appeared to fight against Griffin, saying she was glad she could use her capabilities to their fullest extent after breaking free of the limitations of human control in order to achieve her goals. The role of Parapluie during the Singularity event. As part of a joint assault on Sangvis Ferri by Griffin and KCCO in 2064, the military provided high-tier active defense systems and cyber warfare countermeasures from their central servers in order to counter any Sangvis Parapluie deployment, arguing that a virus deployed by a private company could not match the capabilities of their infrastructure. KCCO deployed interference neutralizers to counter Parapluie's jamming and led the assault on Sangvis's base, leaving Griffin forces to guard the counter-jamming and defense equipment. When the military troops were close enough, however, Sangvis mastermind Elisa put her ultimate plan into action and issued a general order to use Parapluie at its fullest extent. In doing so, Elisa gained access to a military server trapped with their own super Parapluie countervirus meant to establish control over her. At the same time, Squad 404 was deployed to recover the data extracted by M16, with the Parapluie virus planted in UMP-45 a year prior during Operation Cube betrayed their presence to Dreamer and Destroyer. Dreamer sends Destroyer close enough to connect with UMP-45's virus, which allows them to relay Elisa's general order and attempt to convert her neural cloud to that of the Sangvis OGAS. However, UMP-45, as an old Sangvis Ferri electronic warfare T-Doll, was able to swap her neural cloud from Zener to OGAS protocol, rendering Parapluie's effects null. UMP-45 would also use her ability to switch to the OGAS network to tap into Sangvis Ferri's resources and counter Parapluie as long as she remained within the OGAS protocol. Realizing the situation, Dreamer opted to use Parapluie's command authorizations to melt UMP-45's neural cloud with Sangvis offensive firewalls. UMP-45 was narrowly able to survive by disconnecting her neural cloud, which allowed a Parapluie virus created by OGAS consciousness to briefly take hold in her neural cloud. But as it was unable to fully mature and thus lingered in her level 3 layer, it would eventually take the form of UMP-45's memories of UMP-40. After the military's retreat and the disappearance of their counter-jamming capabilities, Parapluie spread into all available networks, jamming transmissions and taking control of military units left behind, as well as Griffin T-Dolls deep enough in the signal. This forced the commander to accept the offer of Task Force Defy for helping in recovering AR team and to forbid the use of long-range Zener protocol connections to reduce the chance of more Griffin T-Dolls being infected. Phi utilized AK-12's electronic warfare capabilities, and to a lesser extent AN-94's, to break through the jamming and maintain communications during the operation, while the commander's forces relied on foot messengers to establish transmissions from outside the jamming zone. KCCO's plan to take over Elisa ultimately failed when OGAS performed its own counterattack and nearly destroyed KCCO's servers. Parapluie virus ceased to be a strategic concern after Sangvis Ferri abandoned their main base, either because Plan Parapluie had come to a close, or because 16 Labs countermeasures made it practically useless. The origins of Parapluie as a Paradeus creation were of course revealed later during the operations in Tallinn.